Hello and welcome back to Homebrew. Today we'll be recapping our Session 8 of the Call of the Hunger campaign, as well as preparing for our Session 9. Now, in our last session, we had a Ocean's 11 sort of session prepared for our characters to prepare to basically set up a trap to hunt this world's version of Predator, right? So a guy that we named Falchion for our notes, who had his own little reason for what he's doing here in this woodland area. Now, he had been hunting the party for a bit, if you guys have been following the series, and the party was at essentially this world's version of Kaer Morhen, if you're familiar with the Witcher series, a fortress that was designed to house folks who were monster hunters, okay? And essentially the party got those guys wrapped up into this. Now, last thing that they were aware of was that one of the Witchers, but in my world they're called Redeemed, was killed previously and kind of taunting the Redeemed characters, or the Redeemed NPCs, saying basically that he's gonna mess up these guys, right? But with no words necessarily spoken. Now, the party was going to be, like I said, doing an Ocean's 11 sort of themed plan for how to be able to take this guy down. And what we had prepared was for basically making sure the party had some way of bringing him in, because he's not going to engage in a disadvantageous fight if he doesn't have to. And a way to keep him there in the event that he does come in, then he's not. If it's a disadvantageous fight, he doesn't want to stick around, right? So he'd normally just leave. So that is what we had at the ready. We instigated some rain and some other conflicting factors to give the players a lot of different puzzle pieces that they would have to juggle. Now, how did that play out in actuality? I think that I was a little bit more prepared for a longer planning session than what the players were actually interested in. Unfortunately for me, I think that I spent most of the time trying to get the party engaged with the planning phase that, for the most part, they were much less interested in than I thought they would be. So how did this end up playing out? I was giving them multiple different avenues to pursue, asking them where they would like to set up, what kind of preparations they would want to do, alchemy, research, that sort of thing. And what they decided to do is that they wanted to hang out in the place that the last guy got killed, in the assumption that if the murderer murders there once, he's going to murder there twice, especially if we have someone exposed, which, to their credit, that is a reasonable plan in the sense that the character Falchion likes to pick off isolated characters, and so putting someone in an isolated spot is a great way of being able to do that. Things got to get a little bit weird, though, because they also wanted to fortify the spots to make it way less advantageous for someone to go after that person, basically kind of nullifying the exposure that originally would have been there. So what did I do? Well, I wanted to make sure that the players' plan would actually work. So I talked them through a little bit. There was rain. The characters wanted their magic still to trigger, so we decided to talk about what kind of opportunities there were there. And one big component to setting a trap was going to be Emery, the trap maker. But I think that the player Sarah was not as excited about planning the technical details of what a trap would be mechanically in this particular situation. And it's really hard to just say I put a trap there and it does trap things, right? So I kind of fussed out how this would work with the player, but it was kind of an uncomfortable feeling there at the table, I think, for her as well as myself, because I felt like I was putting her on the spot. She felt like she was being put on the spot, because she was, and it was a chance to highlight this opportunity for her character to shine. But I don't think that she really liked that. And so what we ended up doing after this session and before this coming up session is we retuned how her magical trap ability, which enhances traps, we decided to change that into basically making a trap out of magic. That way she doesn't have to worry about the mechanics of it. And I think that'll make her much more comfortable to be able to just throw something out and not have to worry about whether or not it's technically feasible, all that sort of stuff. She's got it built right there into her spell. And so that was one thing that coming out of this session that I think was a big success. We also got a situation where everything mechanically makes sense to me for them to actually try to catch the Falchion character. They got to trigger their trap and start the fight. Now, one of the things that we had planned was that if the characters don't come out to go hunting for the Falchion out in the world, which I was kind of hoping that they would go out and try to trap him either in the feeding grounds or somewhere in the thicket limbs. But they decided to stick in the Bracken Bastion. One thing that we decided is if they try to turtle up, that the Falchion already had plans. So kudos for us for our last preparation session. Falchion, according to our notes, he ran around trying to take that dragon net, that giant steel dragon net that covers the entire canopy of above the Bracken Bastion. He tried to cut it down, right? And then he noticed that our player was there was an isolated player, and so he started sniffing around to see how isolated is he, and what are the particulars. And he started to do things like step in the sticky goop that Emery's character plans, and so we got to use that narratively to say what Wretch was hearing with him trying to scrape off his feet and stuff like that and build suspense. So I think that worked out pretty well. And then when he did finally come along and pounce on Wretch, one of the things that I was thinking was he's a predator that drops in from the top, right? And they'd all planned this for him to like land on the ground and then like come at him from the front. And luckily for me, I was like, well, the tent is soft, so he would still go for this guy. If it wasn't for that, Falchion never would have actually gone after Wretch, which would have been a big bummer for the players because, well, they made this plan and it failed, right? And I didn't want that either. I wanted to figure out a way that Falchion would still go after him. So I logicked that the tent is soft, he would still be able to attack him from there, and because of the sentience of the trap, it could work from the top or from the bottom, right? It was basically a net going over the top of the player lining the inside of a tent. So it could go upward just as easy as it could go downward to try to entrap the character. So I thought that worked out pretty well. Falchion jumped down on top of Wretch, got to do him some damage through the tent wrapped up around him. And then what I plan is for in this next session, the Falchion character is going to pull out his chakram to cut away the tent, and then he's going to throw one up and attempt to cut the last little piece of this net to have this gigantic steel net fall over the entirety of the Bracken Bastion. And essentially what that will do is it'll cut off reinforcements. I don't intend to cut off the rest of the players to save Wretch, but I do intend to use this as a plot mechanic as to explain why not all of the other redeemed are coming to help in this fight, so that way it's a little bit more balanced, right? Otherwise the character's going to leave and they're not going to have a chance to kill him. And then if that does happen, which I plan maybe make this into a hunt after a failed trap, if I really think that is what will improve the experience for the players, I intend for them to be able to find blood and feathers and be able to use those to track him with the help of a redeemed. So I thought that would be a kind of a fun part 2 if this turns into that. But I intend for the players to be able to kill Falchion in this next session. But I'm not going to let them go down easy, okay? So what I did is I actually we made a little sketch in the last episode, and what I decided to do is actually just flush out a whole map. And so this is a quick version of the map. I was making it, and I said it took way too long to make the entirety of Bracken Bastion into the depth that I really wanted it. But this will kind of give the players a good enough view for now. So I don't have like the substructure of what's inside this hollowed out stump of a tree, but I have the buildings that they planned their session around. I've got the main structure, and I've got all the ground floors, as well as 2 roof tiles seen here. That I can unhide and put over the top of any one of these 3 buildings that the main fight is going to be happening. I also, it's kind of hard for you to see, but in the GM layer, I've got these nets that I'm going to reveal when the fighting actually starts. It's these brown little lines here, and that will be the net that keeps the folks from being able to go anywhere in this general area of the map until they are able to clear that away and start focusing rehanging it. So that'll also work as if there's a part 2 of this where they have to run down and hunt Falchion. The rest of the Redeemed have to buddy up and repair this net, and are going to be busy there. So they don't get this overwhelming force to help them, but they get at least 1 or 2, probably Rad Baxter, just for fun, because the players seem to have a good engagement with him, as well as the fact that he's already stated some sort of vendetta against Falchion for killing Ninok. We also got some balconies that the Falchion can jump down to, or he can go into these buildings and climb up to the top and jump from building to building, which would be kind of fun for our very, very dexterous Ilya to be able to pursue him and have to jump over these areas to try to stop him. So there's some wiggle room for our antagonist to be able to work around and make this a climactic event. I would like to have it wrapped up soon enough that we know what the players are going to be doing for their next session, and give me an intent of where they're going to go. But we'll just have to see how that pans out. And so that's all we really needed to plan for our session 9. I don't think that the players will have more gas in their tank than to fight this fight, and I think that is about all we need. So let me know what you guys' thoughts were on the last session. Post that in the comments, or if you have any other ideas as far as how these trap sort of predator situations have worked out in your guys' campaigns. I would love to hear and improve what we're doing here on the Call of the Hunger. All right, well, that is about all I would have to say here on the Homebrew channel before our session 9. So tune in here. Actually, it's going to be tomorrow as of the recording of this video, and have fun. Thank you very much.